evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Ajayi. Commemoration of the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I will be speaking on the circle of care, standing with older persons. And from statistics, it is in public domain that older persons, the population of older persons, that's people age 60 and above, is increasing daily, courtesy of good health, courtesy of civilization, and better medical attention, and also so we have an increase in the number of older persons, and by 2050, it is expected we are going to be having like over 235 million that are going to be 60 years and above. And as this population is increasing, also abuse is also increasing. Abuse of the elders is also increasing. As of 2017, it was just 1 out of every 24 older person that recorded abuse. But as of 2020, now we have 1 in every 6 older persons recording abuse. And Nigeria specifically, because my work has always is domiciled in Nigeria, Nigeria specifically has about 30 to 81.1% of older persons recording abuse. And so today we are going to look briefly at what June 15 typifies for those of us in the gerontological circle. We want to unmask also what abuse means. Then we want to see what the circle of abuse, then we have a call for action. So for me, like I was asked during the interview, June 15 for me, it's a day to unmask action and the failures that we have committed as younger persons to older persons. And so this day is just a day to break silence and to raise awareness and also to appreciate the resilience and honor the resilience of older persons. Okay, so this day is it's a global day for us to shed light and encourage people also to identify abuses and report them. And the day started in 2006, that's 2006, by a group called the International Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse, and the United Nations took it up in 2011. So yes, June 15 is the Father's Day. It's also the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And so we want to unmask what abuse means. And for definition's sake, abuse is a single or a repeated act or the lack of appropriate action that occurs in any relationship where trust is available, when trust is available, and it causes harm to anybody that is an older person. Categorically, we could share abuses into 5 forms. But the prominent one that we regard as abuse, or okay, let me just say 2 of them that the public will see as an abuse is the physical abuse and probably the sexual abuse. Those are the common ones. But there are some that are undertone that is common, especially in Nigeria. I listed out 10 of them that is rampant in Nigeria, and it goes unreported, it goes unnoticed because there are a lot of strings that are attached. Our culture is attached, our value system is also attached. So sometimes we just let some things slide. Older persons let some things slide. But these are the constant form of abuses that older persons face. Number 1 is verbal and emotional abuse, all in the name of we are trying to correct them or we are trying to tell them the truth. You see situations whereby, especially in multi-generational setting, where you have the children, the grandchildren living with an older person, you feel, oh, grandma, grandpa, why are you behaving like this now? Grandma, you are too slow. Grandpa, you are too slow. All this form of words that we use, or we just say, leave grandma, she talks too much. Let me just avoid. Oh, grandma is calling you, and your son, and you're telling your child, well, I'm tired. I'm not ready for grandma's talk tonight. She talks. I'm not ready for her gist tonight. I'm so tired. These are forms of abuse, and because older persons love us, they would not want to express themselves and tell us that yes, or even they themselves might not know that it's the form of abuse that is happening to them. All in the name of we are trying to correct them or we are trying to just be blunt. Yeah, let me use that word. All in the name of we are trying to be blunt with them. We tend to abuse them emotionally. Also, neglect is one serious abuse we give to older persons. If I'm to ask now that how many of us in the last 1 week, how many times have we called or checked up on our moms, on our dads that are 60 years and above? Or when last, okay, fine. Some of us are good at, okay, we send them money and we think, oh, all is well. And we just assume that because a typical Nigerian is resilient, a typical Nigerian can survive in any situation we find ourselves. So we just feel that automatically these people can cope no matter the amounts you send them. Some of us don't even bother to send anything to them. We just feel, grandma is collecting pension, grandpa is collecting pension. They will cope, they will adjust with that. And so we intentionally or unconsciously feel they know how to manage and we end up neglecting them. That is a form of abuse. Also, another form of abuse that is common is excluding them from decision making. Decisions that pertains to them, we exclude them from it. For instance, you go to the hospital with your older person. I went to the hospital sometimes last year. I went to the hospital with my mom, and the doctor was wanted to ask what our health situation is, and he faced me and was asking me, okay, okay, what happened to Mama? What? And I'm like, she's seated right here. She's not deaf and she's not deaf. She can hear you. So let her express herself to you. And so he just smiled and he was like, oh, sorry. And he spoke to her and she was able to respond comfortably and express herself. So sometimes decisions, especially when it comes to health matters, we exclude them a lot. We just speak for them. Also, financial exploitation by family members, all in the name of we are taking care of them, their pension or whatever financial finance they have or their properties. We sell them, we say we are using it to care for them or something. That is an exploitation. That is a form of abuse. Maybe because you feel the grandma does not need so much money, or she already collected her pension, and we go in the name of we want to borrow. We want to borrow from them, and we borrow from them, and the borrowing does not have repayment. That is a form of financial abuse. And also, our culture has enshrined us with. Okay, sorry. Also, our culture has enforced the idea of every older woman, every old woman, especially anyone that is looking tattered or looking haggard, we automatically equate that person to a witch. And it is enshrined or enforced in our culture. For instance, in the Yoruba culture, where I'm from, it is a general belief, or is it an adage that will say that we say these things jokingly, or I don't know if it is an adage or part of our way of life, I wouldn't know. But it's something we say jokingly that obìnrin bá ti pẹ́ nílé ọkọ, ó máa ń dàjẹ́. As in, meaning if a woman has spent long years in her husband's house, she becomes a witch. That's just the literal interpretation. I know it might have another meaning, but in the true sense of it, that is what happens to our older women. We end up equating them with witchcraft, and before you know it, you've gone to one church, you've gone to one fast place, and they're already saying your mother is the cause of your problem, your mother did something, something, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, we neglect those people and we just help them, allow them to wallow in this idea of they are witches. That even sometimes I've had experiences like that whereby the daughter said she's always dreaming and it's her mother's image she's always seeing. And she catapulted this into the mother being a witch, neglected her, and a whole lot of things transpired. But to God be the glory, we were able to come out of the situation and she was able to go to the right, maybe went to the right prayer center that showed her that it was somebody that was using the image of her mother or something. And also, some older people go through dementia. That's a cognitive relapse in the cognitive function. That's when they go out in the house, they forget where they go to, and they end up wandering around. And at the end of the day, we tag such people as witches. Also, another form of abuse is withholding information or choices from them. Sometimes we are trying to protect them, and maybe somebody dies in the family, and you're like, if you tell grandma, it can affect her. If you tell grandpa, it can affect him negative. And at the end of the day, you withhold information from them as at when due. By the time you are going to relay that information, the odds is more than if you are told them earlier. And also, overprotection is also a form of abuse. We don't want, especially for those of us that live in urban area, maybe our parents, our mother or our father comes to greet us, and you're like, ah, because somebody that is coming from a village or something, they are used to going out, relating with friends, relating with people around, and you're like, eh, well, maybe you, there's no waka waka about to as in where you have to sit is where you should stay. Don't foreclose. I don't talk to this person. I don't talk to that person, and then we end up trying to protect them in our own view. But it is a form of abuse to restrict movement because at least we have freedom of movement. So at least they should be able to move around also. But we tend to restrict them. That is a form of abuse. Then also for some time, for some older persons, they go through lack of privacy, especially those that live in multi-generational settings and those that are vulnerable amongst them. They still have dignity of life. You don't change them. You don't try to change them in front of younger ones or try to change their clothing or try to bathe for them in front of the younger ones because you feel that there's no big deal. There's nothing special in the grandma's body that a small boy or whatever in the house cannot see or something. It is a form of abuse, and it is you that is a disrespect to their dignity. And some researchers have even found out that most people that are attracted to most sexual deviants that are attracted to sleeping with old people, people that are older than them, they come from such homes where they're already exposed to seeing older people, older women naked most times. And so this is a form of abuse for the older person and is also detrimental to the younger ones in the family. And also a common one is the fact that we ignore their pains and their health complaints. Most time we just feel like, grandma agbalode, my back is aching me, my leg is aching me, and we just feel that we just ignore them and say, yes, it's part of old age symptom. It is wrong. Every complaint they make, we are supposed to respond to it. And lastly, is sexual abuse. Though this goes most times unreported, and it comes oftentimes with family members. It comes oftentimes with people that are close to them and they are interested. So basically, these are the common form of abuse that we face, that older persons face. And these forms of abuse, they have levels of perpetration. There are levels which these abuses are perpetrated, or levels at which these abuses come, or involvement in this kind of abuse. Number one is in individual level. Some people perpetrate abuse because they have mental health issues, because they have substance abuse, because they have a history of violence, or because they are financially dependent on the older person. So they end up abusing such people. And at relationship level, also families, because of family relationship, you know, this person, grandma will not hurt me, grandma will not say anything, we just let it slide and we just do some things to them. Also at caregiving level, as a form of the relationship that caregivers, though most times we have a lot of unprofessional caregivers that will leave the care of our parents, of our older ones in their hands. And as such, they tend to take advantage of this situation. And because we ourselves don't identify that some things are abusive in nature, they tend to hide under this and just let things like that happen. And at the society level, ageism, which is a prejudice and just relating with people based on their age because of assumptions, because of stereotypes. It occurs at the community level, at the societal level. We talk down on older persons, and we believe because one older person has done this, automatically it is every old person that does it. And so we use that to react to them. It happens at that. And also lack of resources, especially in my country, Nigeria, and lack of qualified staff, and probably those that are working in stressful conditions, they tend to abuse a lot because of the stringent measures that are, because of the lack of resources that they have and lack of support that they get. And specifically, the family, caregivers, friends, acquaintances, and sometimes strangers also perpetrate abuse. And why do this abuse continue and older persons don't report? They don't report because they don't want to damage family relationships. They are worried that there's going to be retaliation later. Maybe they are also not mentally capable to identify that they're going through abuse and to report it. And sometimes also because it is believed that aggression and violence is part of family life. So a lot of them just end up letting things like that go. And They are also, some of them are also, they feel ashamed to talk about it, that my child or my family member is making me go through this. So they just let it go off and unreported or not spoken about. And if this actually has an effect, it has an effect on the older persons themselves, because you have it turning out to be physical. They have physical issues in terms of bruises, in terms of injury, worsened health condition. It also affects them emotionally. It affects them, it gives a loss of dignity, a loss of hope. And unfortunately, it is not just the older person that is affected, even our society, our world is being affected, our nation is being affected, because when abuse persists, it lays burden on the healthcare system, because you have more hospitalization, you have higher costs to take care of them when they go through abuse, than when we understand that these things are abuse and we allow them live a normal life. And they are more likely to die faster. Anybody that goes through abuse is more likely to die faster than somebody that has not gone through abuse as an older person. Actually, we are all responsible for this, so we also have to all be responsible for the care. Even the older persons themselves are responsible for the care. They're responsible for their professionals are responsible, family and friends are responsible, communities and faith-based institutions are responsible, and the government is also responsible. Most times we tend to lay all our burdens on the government, but in our own little corner, what have we been doing to make lives better for older persons? And so, just going through the action plan. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I skipped a slide. Okay, so the older persons, what is the duty of the older persons? The older person themselves are supposed to identify their rights and also speak up against abuse. They are supposed to share their experiences with people they trust. They are supposed to make plans also for themselves, their health care, and they should always have an emergency number at hand, especially for those that have dementia. There should be a place, we should write numbers, emergency numbers somewhere for them, and let those numbers be on them often, so that in case they are not they cannot find their way back, there is somebody that can be called to assist them. And also families, for me, families have as much as we want the government to do something, family also have a greater responsibility. We should learn to listen and observe changes. That is key, because awareness is one key thing in abuse. Once we are able to identify that there is changes, even if we are not living with them, once we see changes that occur, we should be able to spot abuses easily, that we should provide care and we should respect their dignity. We should always try to involve them also in everything that has to do with them. Anything that you know has to do with them, we should try to involve them in decision making. And for professionals, those in the healthcare sector, those those that are social gerontologists, we should also try to always educate family. That is our whole role in the circle. We should educate families, which is one of what I am doing now. We should educate members of the family, educate caregivers also. We should create safe space for disclosure and for counseling. We should also advocate for sensitive laws and policies. And thank God we are seeing changes in our country, Nigeria. At least we are beginning to see changes in the issue of older persons and our community and faith level, because it is general, or it is a known fact that as we grow older, especially when we get to those age of 60 retirement, we get closer to God. Yeah. So we become prominent members of faith-based organizations, whether as a Muslim or a Christian or a tradition. We just want to get closer to our Creator. And so at that point, the work also and the circle of care also extends to faith to organization, aside from the community, even faith organization, religious organization, for them to be able to identify and also create social network. Because one thing that is missing now in our Gen Z generational thing is the fact is the lack of intergenerational activities. We tend to see the older ones as their own dispensation is gone. We have a newer dispensation. So at community level and at faith-based level, we could also create avenues where you have intergenerational activities for older persons and younger persons to come together and understand better and understand themselves better. And at the government level, we need more. Yes, things are being in place now gradually, I believe, and I want to believe it will get better because we now have the National Senior Citizen Center in Nigeria, and they are doing a beautiful job. But yes, more needs to be done. And one key thing also is the issue of a good healthcare system, a good geriatric healthcare system. I had an incident recently that was actually painful. We eventually lost the woman, and it was courtesy of our healthcare system because one doctor does not know that this is how you should relate with an older person. And eventually, the grandma refused to take. She refused to be to take blood. She was supposed to be infused the blood, and the son too was not knowledgeable on how to talk with her. He eventually left the hospital, and her case got depreciated before I could get into the scene. And even when I got into the scene and tried to encourage them, because I'm not home, so it was difficult for me to monitor as effective as I should. And eventually, in short, in a nutshell, we lost the woman all because the son also feels she has a kidney issue and she was not going to survive it. And so they did not even bother to do much work about. They did not bother to take it so serious or take her healthcare so serious. And it was painful because that was somebody's life that just went all because we feel, oh, she's an older person and she doesn't have a say in her own talk. And so it is a call for action, and all of us are involved. Whether you are a neighbor or you are a family member, there are things to look out for, and there are things to see for you to be able to say, at least once you are able to identify these things, you can know that yes, this person might be going through an abuse. There are physical signs that you look out for, there are behavioral signs that we look out for, there are environmental signs that we also look out for, and even the caregiver, there are signs that the caregiver can give us for us to know that whoever they are taking care of is going through abuse. When you see a caregiver that is getting aggressive, unnecessarily impatient, lacks empathy, or you know that this person you want to speak with your mother or your father, and they're always sleeping. When you call, they are sleeping, or when you call, oh, they stepped out or something, or I'm not at home. Avoiding communication with an older person when a caregiver avoids you communicating with an older person, it's a sign that needs to be observed. And also when you see an older person that is malnourished or dehydrated or has poor hygiene, it is something we have to look out for. And when we already know our older persons, and when we see that these people are just withdrawn, or they go into depression, or they are reluctant to speak to us the way they speak before, it is something we need to look out for. And when we look out for these things and when we see them, the appropriate thing is to talk about it. When you talk to older persons about situations, it is not a form of disrespect. When you talk to them in respectful ways, they will tend to open up to you. We should learn to check in on them. And I asked at the beginning of this conversation, of this presentation, that if I'm to ask how many of us spoke with our older ones, this at least in the last 1 week, especially for those of us that are not close to them, maybe we are not in the same vicinity with them, probably the rates will be low. And so this is one key thing also. We need to check up on them often as much as possible. And when we identify that somebody is going through an abuse, it might not be somebody that is our family. It might be a neighbor or something. You can check up on them, ask them if they are okay, ask them if they feel safe where they are. And we should always advocate whenever we witness a form of abuse. We shouldn't just let it slide. We shouldn't just let it go. We should speak about it and express ourselves about it and raise consciousness about it. And that is what this day is about. And lastly, we can act. If you know that it's something you cannot handle yourself, yes, just like I said earlier, in Nigeria now we have the National Senior Citizens Center, and they have a toll-free lines where you can report abuses of older persons. So it is not just about ignoring or just saying it is not my business, it's a family matter, let them solve their thing. You can be part of the solution to make the life of an older person better by taking active steps to prevent and to stop abuse. There are also NGOs that works with older persons, that are for older persons. We could work with them. We could identify those ones in our vicinity and speak with them about issues like that when abuses come up. And lastly, I would say different if you understand the different forms of older persons abuse, you recognize the sign, and you know where and how to report, then you are playing a vital role in protecting an older person and creating a world where every life matters, where there is a less strain on our economy, and where sustainability is our hallmark. Thank you for listening. If there are clarities to be done or contributions,